All right. There you go. Right. American lady has stated her case that there's a recording in progress. So, right. I'm getting old, so my back needs readjusting before we go. Cool. So, I have a little tiny preamble, and then we'll hop straight in. I hope that's okay.
Sure.
So, ladies
Yeah.
and gentlemen, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name's Lorne Riseley, host of the Halcyon Show. How you doing? Today, I want you to think back to when you were a kid. To that moment when you saw something for the first time that really set your imagination ablaze, and though you didn't know it at the time, it intrigued you for life. Now, for most of us, that's where the dream began and sadly ended, because we never thought we could actually pursue this dream. But today, we speak to someone who has done that thing. And it's that thing we wish we could all do, pursued a passion to completion. And in her case, she's gone on to forge a career in the professional wrestling industry. Not only that, she's cultivated a career in all types of content creation and has garnered a reputation as a woman of many talents and indeed the moniker of the Lady of Many Hats. Please welcome a podcaster, radio host, professional wrestling personality and interviewer. It's Jessy Maria.
Hello. That was the nicest introduction. I actually felt a bit emotional then. I was like, that's actually so sweet. Oh my God. Oh, that was lovely. Hey,
we just spit
sweet.
facts here. I'm good. And this is the thing. We only spit facts here. And I want to jump straight in because we said a little bit of this off air. The main reason I wanted to talk to you is because you really did do the thing. And look, in my defense, it was Power Rangers for me. And unfortunately, Power Rangers aren't real. So I couldn't grow up to be a Power Ranger. You, on the other hand, as it turns out, were, as a 7-year-old, watched wrestling, became enamored, and lo and behold, you've gone on to cultivate a career in professional wrestling. I want you to tell me how that feels and how one goes about navigating the, should I do this? Can I do this? Wow, I'm doing this, to, oh my God, I'm actually doing this. Tell me how you feel about all that.
Well, it was the whole process, right? I'm going to be honest. It wasn't like I planned it. Going to be honest with you. It wasn't planned. This whole thing was never planned. It was a little bit of a fluke. It just happened. Like one day it just happened. Obviously, like you mentioned, there's a little girl. And then you got, when you go through that stage when you're at school when everyone's like, oh, what are you into? And you're like, oh, I'm into, I don't know, like some cool things, like, I don't know, the Jonas Brothers or something, like, for example. I secretly weren't just in that stage, I was into John Cena, you know what I mean? So for me, I had to keep it very cool. And the only reason, obviously, I started doing everything is because no one else would listen to me. And I created this weird, like, community online where people listened to my opinions of wrestling. And then when it comes to like the stuff with like the ring announcing and the interviewing, it kind of fell in my lap, to be honest. I was doing my podcast, I was doing my YouTube. And then one promotion was like, oh, would you maybe want to do like backstage interview? And I was like, yeah, why not? That'd be cool. And then their MC dropped out and they were like, look, would you maybe want to consider doing ring announcing? I was like, are you sure with my Essex accent? Are you actually like insane? And yeah, then I just fell into it. And here we are. And then the radio stuff started. I don't know. It just fell in my lap.
See, this is something else that struck me about you in researching is the confidence. And you've actually referenced this in previous interviews where you've said, look, I've just always been confident. And it's not even that you say it in an arrogant tone or to be boastful. You've just kind of stated it as fact, and you've never, ever really wavered from that. Whenever I've watched you doing interviews, or you've done your shows, or you're doing your vlogs, it's always very light, it's always very direct, and it's always very jovial. There's never really any... There's nothing forceful about the way you present things. The question I had is, not has it always been the case because you've always been confident. My question is, how have you fine-tuned that? How have you tweaked it? How have you evolved since the early times when you made the channel in large part because you wanted to talk, but now you've kind of gone, well, look, I'm building a platform, I'm building a personality. How have you gone about tweaking it?
Yeah. Do you know what? I'll be honest, before the age of 21, I didn't speak. I didn't speak. I was very, very quiet. I know you'd be quite surprised, right? But before I was, so all through school, all through secondary school, through college, I was very, very shy, very quiet. When I was 18, 19, I wouldn't even go to Tesco on my own. So to have this, and all of a sudden, I can make friends with a lamppost. You know what I mean? Like, I could talk to anyone. But it's like, do you know what? It was quite terrifying when I first started the YouTube thing. I was like, oh, what are people going to think of me? You're going to, I think when you first start out doing all this, you do worry. You do get a little bit, oh, is that right to post? Do I look stupid? Is my double chin showing? But like, after a while, I got to like a headspace and like a point where I'm like, no, like I'm actually all right person. And then my confidence has just gone more and more on. And I've realised, I think, because I've got weirder as I've got older as well, my confidence has just flown up in the air. I know it sounds so weird, but I have got weirder and we all know it. And it's just like my confidence is just, I don't know, it's crazy.
When you say weirder,
I do get nervous though.
Interesting. Okay. When you say weirder, though, in terms of, I mean, is that just embracing quirks, like just things about yourself that you would, like you say, when you get started and you're just thinking about every little thing that you're like, oh, I'm not sure about that, and all the rest of it, and then you just go, listen, this is just me, and I'm happy to embrace those things because it lets me do this. It lets me show this about me. Talk to me about that then. Talk to me about like kind of evolving and embracing more and more of that so-called, because I do understand what you're saying in terms of the weirdness factor, like the idea of me, for instance, I talk like, oh, you're a weirdo, you talk to people a lot. I'll interview people then, because that's the point. Talk to me about like embracing more of your quirks and more of your personality to present to people.
I don't know. I think, do you know what? I think a lot of time it was relaxing and actually thinking, hold on a minute, I'm not actually that bad at this. I could be quite a likable person, and I think a lot of it comes with passion. I'm more confident when I talk about passion, like it's something I'm really passionate in. Then I'm like a big ball of energy quite a lot. Obviously, don't get me wrong, I get nervous. I do get nervous. There's some things I get a bit panicky about and I get a bit anxious about, but that's kind of being a human, isn't it? But like, if I'm passionate, I'm loud and I'm confident, and I think I kind of answered the question ish.
I think it's interesting because again, you've kind of evolved through different mediums and over a period of time that it's evident, because obviously I've seen some of your earlier videos, I've seen some more of your more recent posts where you've started to become more analytical or you've become more opinionated. And it's interesting to see how you've embraced certain aspects of yourself. You have certainly become more bombastic in terms of your overall presentation and in terms of your demeanor. I'm just curious as to why you've gone down certain avenues and why you've embraced certain avenues. Do you feel like it's because you've said about it's more what you're passionate about, it's more what's true to you? Tell me about like how you've kind of honed in on that. Like, was that a hard process in terms of kind of going, do you know what, I just want to do me, I do want to kind of do this, and I do kind of want to be silly, and I don't want to take myself too seriously, and I do kind of want to get, especially in the world of professional wrestling that really does demand, turn that personality and presentation up to 11. Whatever it is about you, be true to yourself and turn it up to 11, and you'll be successful.
I think it's difficult because even like social media in general, right? Years ago, I would have been worried about posting a picture, be like, oh my God, how do I look? Like, do I look all right? I used to then send messages to my mates and be like, oh, do I look okay? Is this picture all right to upload? Now, I'll get my double chin out. I'm at a point where I'm very comfortable in myself, and I think it's quite a tough process. I don't really know what happened, but like over the last couple of years, I'm at a point now where I've just not that I don't care what people think, but I'm at the same time, I'm like, there is a lot worse people I could be like, So it's like, I don't know. Over the last couple of years, I've just kind of, been a bit different, just been a lot more relaxed about how I look online. Obviously, it's great, obviously, that I do speak my mind on social media because someone's got to talk about it, someone's got to say it, because some people don't. It might get me in trouble sometimes, but Yeah, it's probably not going to stop me, to be fair. It's probably not going to stop me from opening my mouth and talking.
You talked about, in a previous interview, starting your YouTube channel in large part because you wanted to talk about stuff that you couldn't necessarily share and express. How has that changed now that people are asking like, they're following you for your opinion now? It's not like you're having to put it out there. I mean, this interview is an evidence of that. I want to know what goes through your mind when you're doing certain things. Talk to me about that, because that must be, again, someone who's like, has started off just because I just want to kind of talk and I just want to vibe to, no, we want to know. Like, what do you think? Like, tell us what you think. Like, how does that feel like to you?
So, do you know what? Obviously, so we haven't discussed it, but obviously I do like a weekly radio show. And that show has opened my eyes like you wouldn't even believe. So I do like a sports diary each week for a Scottish radio show. And people write in and ask me for my opinion. Like every week, there are people that listen from all over the world every single week to hear my opinion and what I think about even wrestling stuff, the sports stuff in general, like random like things about like the royal family. And it's like, it's crazy. Obviously, I think when I started the YouTube stuff, obviously I was like, oh, but people gonna like it, because wrestling can be, if you have an opinion, or if you are, not being funny, if you're a female and you watch wrestling and you start doing videos, it's a scary world. It can be a bit scary because people will think, oh, well, she ain't got a clue what she's on about. But this radio show that I've been doing has like, it's been so different. Like people want to know how I feel about things every week. And the same people are there, or even new people pop up, and you just think, that's insane. Like there was a time when I heard through the radio show and that someone had written in and said that they like a teacher, like a lecture person at like a uni. No, I think it's a college actually, a college or a uni, and they were doing media, and they were talking about women in sport in this class, and they showed my like radio show to a class of students to study me. That's insane. Like that made me cry. I got emotional. It made me cry. So I'm like, what? So they wrote in and just said like how like cool it was, and how they'd use my example and talking about and like analyze my speaking. I was like that's nuts. So yeah, it's like things like that. Quite sweet.
And I think it's that passion that shines through. It really is. Like I say, in doing research for this, one of the things that kept on coming, I've never seen you have a show where you've just cut a promo on something and just go, right, I got something to say, right, fucking this, right? I've never seen that in you. You've always just come at it with, even if you come at it with a bit of fire, right? And I've seen some of your vlogs where you kind of, you're very direct and you kind of come at it. It's never venomous.
Yeah.
It's never spiteful. And in professional wrestling, okay, and calm down, put your keyboards down before I say this, okay? Wrestling fans can be a tad temperamental when, as you've kind of alluded to, there's an opinion that deviates from their own. So my question is, how have you avoided that? How have you avoided kind of just saying, well, everyone else is doing it, so I better do it too, because why not? And rah. Like, what's kind of kept you on point in your own mind by saying, look, I don't see the reason to go in for it?
Yeah, do you know what? I'll be honest. There's sometimes I've bit my tongue. There's sometimes I've thought about saying things. I'm like, oh, you know what? Nah, it's not worth it. There's no point. I think sometimes I just think, you're on the internet. You're on the internet. Like, and sometimes if you some things you do, nobody cares. Like, I'm going to be honest. There are a lot of times if you say some things, nobody gives a damn. Sometimes I just keep my mouth shut, carry on my day, and then just, enjoy my day. I'm not going to worry about what's going on there and what I want to say. There's no point. There's no point.
I see what I mean. Look, I've had the moment like most of you. I'm sure you have too. You see something on Twitter, you start type, and you go, "Do you know what? Not worth it today. Nah, I know this.
Delete.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stay away with it." But it's wrestling, and especially on the week we've just had. As a matter of fact, a colleague of mine, we had a very spirited discussion about the CM Punk interview the other day. It is fun sometimes to get involved in wrestling, if no other reason than for, quote, the drama, but only when it's in service of the product, I feel. Like, in terms of the fandom of it and the fantasy of it, fine. When it starts getting personal, that's when I start having problems with it. So my question to you is, again, how have you kind of maintained your focus on... Because I think, obviously, I'm assuming you saw Mania. I'm assuming you may have caught tidbits of it. I imagine...
No, I watched the whole damn thing.
Well, there you go. So I'm assuming that part of you, there's parts of it you did like, parts of you didn't like, but it sounded, but based on the feed, it was like, do you know what? I really enjoyed it, and that's kind of that. Like, talk to me about how you feel about wrestling these days, like in terms of how you view it, how you interact with it, and like how you enjoy it, I guess.
I think that recently, over the past year, I think I've enjoyed it more than I ever have. Well, not say I ever have, but it goes up and down, doesn't it? I think for me, wrestling has been such a huge part of my life for me. Obviously, years. Obviously, stepping away from it towards the end of the year, but it will forever be a massive part of my life, you know. But like, it's at a point now where it's so big and it's so huge everywhere, you know. It's like, even in the UK, in the like all the different companies, they're all good. Obviously, going to fight. They're going to have this. They're going to have that. Sometimes it's very immature, but at the end of the day, there is some really cool stuff happening. And it's like, for me, obviously, I've always been a big WWE fan, and like, it's huge for me. It's so good at the minute. It's like on top form, and it's exciting, you know. And I think, you know, for a couple of years, it had a little bit, not a downfall, but it was a bit like, a bit samey. But it's just, it's amazing at the minute. I really enjoyed wrestling for like the past year or so. Really, really have. Just to watch it, it's actually like had my attention. Like, you know, after WrestleMania, like me and my partner had like a debrief about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's so cool. We have debriefs. Like, what happened? Or how do you feel about that? Oh, we do predictions in our household. Whoever wins gets to buy the other one dinner, or has to like do the washing up for a week, you know? So like, we make it a thing. We make it a big thing in our household, and that will probably never change.
Part of me wonders how you would have been during the Monday Night Wars. My question there is like, when during that period, because it was a little bit before, if my research leads me to be correct, it was SummerSlam 2001 was your first foray. Is that right?
Yeah.
So a little bit after, obviously. But like, so from 96 to maybe early part of 99, we'll be generous. Like, what do you think you would have been as a fan during that period where it genuinely was the zeitgeist? Like, NWO t-shirts were everywhere, Stone Cold t-shirts. If you didn't have a Stone Cold, you had a poster of The Rock. Like, what do you think you would have been like during that period?
I think I would have just been so excited. It is exciting. I know, like, people go, oh, you know, it's fake. It's so exciting for me. Oh, I think if you are a wrestling fan, it's exciting. Doesn't matter what it is. Do you know what I mean? It's exciting. Like, you know, people moan about wrestling. Oh, wrestling's all this, wrestling's that. Like, even wrestling fans do it. But at the same time, I think you're still watching it, though, aren't you? Come on, you can't moan about it that much, because I see you watching WrestleMania. You sit there and talk about how much you hate WWE, but you got something to say about Gunther and Sammy's match, haven't you, my friend? So, listen, you're always going to be, if you say you're kind of a wrestling fan, you're a liar. You're a wrestling fan, and you'll always be a wrestling fan, and you probably will watch it forever. It's like a cult. It's like a weird cult, isn't it, really? You know?
It's a funny thing. I tell you what wrestling is. Wrestling is the same as battle rap in the sense that whenever you're talking to someone and then they make a passing reference to something, you go, hang on, what did you just say? And you go, just too sweet. And you go, you're a wrestling fan? Like, well, yeah. You've literally never referenced it. Oh, I've been watching it since I was a kid. And yet, for some reason, it's something everyone knows, everyone has a passing or at least semi-recurring relationship with. But there's still a stigma. There's still this weird isolating factor about wrestling, and I can't put my finger on it. I mean, you've been in it and you've been following it a long time. Like, to your mind, like, okay, let me ask a different question. what can be done to get rid of
Yeah.
that? Like, so we can all just enjoy being wrestling fans, rather than whenever it's the fake thing, oh, it's fake. Yes, yeah, so Star Wars. So Game of Thrones wasn't a documentary. Like, can we move on from that as a
We
criticism,
don't have dragons.
please?
I don't know if you've noticed. But
It's entertainment, brother. Like, it's just...
very good point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It'll stay real. Unless it's based on a true story, but it's probably not going to be. E.T. don't exist, mate, you know? Like, but I think a lot, you know, you get when you talk to someone, you'll be like, I remember WWF. I used to watch da-da-da-da-da-da. And I think, when's the last time you watched it? Because I think you quite enjoy it now. Because it's pretty damn good these days. Oh, it's still just people flipping over and doing this and that. I'm like, you should watch it. Like, honestly, I think it's like people secretly are like, maybe I have a little peek. And they pretend that they're not going to secretly watch. But you get like, for example, like for WrestleMania, I think The Rock just being back brought so many eyes back to that product. So many. And that could help because people were like, oh, actually, sorry, this has got really good. It's just like a big soap drama to me. And I like soap dramas, so I'm like fully invested.
I have a theory, and I would like to put it to you because I would like to lead it to a question. One of the things I think wrestling struggled with for a while is having to wrestling fans, I should say, is having to defend aspects of wrestling that are objectively kind of indefensible. And one of the things for the longest time is when you'd go, okay, so that's one side of wrestling. Explain this to me, and then you'd have Trish Stratus on a leash barking like a dog, or you'd have the women's WrestleMania match at 25 being a battle royale that's won by Santina Marella. And you go, so women are kind of not treated like humans in wrestling. Okay, that's kind of hard to defend. That's kind of hard. Whereas now, you've got anyone, irrespective of where they come from, who they are, what they are, they can main event WrestleMania if they get over. I think that's a massive part of what makes wrestling a lot more exciting these days, because it's anyone who gets over can get over. Talk to me about that, because I know that one of the things that really sparked your interest, especially it's mentioned here, you praised the acceptance of women's wrestling and the emergence of the women's division, especially after the Fighting With My Family movie came out, and it was kind of like, look, let's put the focus on a British, also a British wrestling star who really did make it to the highest levels of the industry. Talk to me about that and how that's felt for you as a wrestling fan.
Oh, do you know what? Like, you know, I've always watched it since I was young, and you did look at the girls and you think, but I think it sounds so weird, but at the time you didn't think much of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you just thought, oh, you're watching wrestling. Okay, they're doing the bra and panties match, and I don't know why. Maybe obviously behind the scenes people talk about it more, but no one really thought anything bad of it, unless I'm in a different world compared to everyone else. But at the time, obviously, I was a bit younger, didn't think anything of it. And now as I've got older, I'm like, hold on a second, that was a bit weird, wasn't it? Really, that was a bit strange. You don't see Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins doing that now, do you? Do you know what I mean? They're not doing bra and panties matches, but it's like, it's at a point now where women's wrestling, like Rhea Ripley has been obviously so all over the internet the past, you know, couple of years. She's brought more eyes to it. There has been, you know, obviously Fight With My Family. Obviously, it was a great thing to watch, and so many people that weren't wrestling fans watched that, and they were like, oh, like even like I think even my nan and granddad were like, oh, I watched that that thing about that, you know, that film about that girl from Norwich that became a wrestler with her family. What was it called? Fighting With Myself. I was like, I know. It's actually really good. What really wrestling's like. And then people ask more questions. Do you know what I mean? But like, I think with how women's wrestling is now, it's just so good. Like, it's at a point where they're gonna take over, and I've been saying this for years. And like, you saw wrestling, I don't know if you did watch WrestleMania, but if you didn't, you saw the entrances they were getting, the reactions they were getting, and I'm gonna be brutally honest, and this is absolutely crazy. I feel like Rumble, the women's like elimination chambers, multi-women matches are sometimes better than most of the men's they're ever put on. Honestly, they are absolutely fantastic. They've got so much ability, and I don't know if it's like they're trying very hard to prove themselves, because even if they do the slightest little botch, and it's still going like that today, do you know what I mean? But it's like, say if, you know, The Rock does a botch, actually it's probably not the best example, someone else does a botch, a male wrestler, people aren't really going to talk about it. People probably aren't going to care, but as soon as a woman does it, no, she's terrible, get her out the ring, take her back to the performance center. It's like, it shouldn't get to that point either. So it's getting there, you know. I feel like women's wrestling is slowly getting there. It's getting there, but slowly, I think. Hopefully. Yeah.
I think you've hit the nail on the head towards the beginning of your answer, where you said, well, we all kind of looked at it at the beginning and kind of went, well, that's just the way it is because that's who watches. It's predominantly guys from sort of 14 to 36. Girls don't really watch wrestling, and no one ever stopped to think, well, why? Why not? Is there a reason why not? And again, you mentioned you were 7 when you started watching, so it's not like you were necessarily the target demographic age-wise anyway. It was something that you encountered and you were enamored with. So one of the things that kind of struck me about that is the fact that you had we all have our little time away from wrestling period where we go, do you know what? Go into other things for a little bit. And then you come back to now, okay? Yeah. I got to ask, what does the 7-year-old you think about you now having... Wait, you were in the ring with the... You were doing the... You're in wrestling! Holy... Wow! That's... Like, talk to me about that, because that must... Again... Obviously, you can't go back into that position and look at yourself, but if you could, how would 7-year-old you feel about the fact that you've done some of the stuff that you've seen done on TV and on pay-per-view?
Yeah, do you know what? I think there's been... it's weird because some of it, I get really nervous when I'm doing ring announcing because I'm so scared that I'm going to mess something up. And there's been one time where I was stood there and thought, oh my God, like... what am I doing? Like, do you know what I mean? I stood there like, what on earth is going on with my life currently? Like, this is so weird. Like, I just didn't know what to do. Like, I was really, really nervous about some things, and I'm like sharing locker rooms with really cool people, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, who am I? You know what I mean? But it's like 7-year-old me. Oh my God. To be fair, the girls that were in wrestling around that time when I was obviously growing up, they were my idols. I didn't really look at like, the odd pop star, but these girls that are wrestlers, they were my idols. Do you know what I mean? So like, obviously I wish so many of them were still wrestling now, because that'd be the coolest thing ever. But like, there's some of them now that are still wrestling, which I'm like, that did the bra and panty stuff, and I think, look how far you've come as well. You know, it feels like I've grown up. They've changed, and they're getting seen for like how good they really are. And it's really cool. Yeah, I'd say so.
You're damn right. Yeah, when you think about how, isn't it again one of the weird things, like the fact that again from our generation of wrestling, like Lita and Trish Stratus, they've only faced each other at Mania once, and you think. That was the seminal women's rivalry of the early years of sort of the real advent of the women's division. And they only ever faced each other once. If that doesn't tell you how far we've come, because now... Sorry, go.
And do you know what's even crazier? They're still so huge, and you see the pop that they both get, and you just think, why didn't they get more? Like, why didn't they get more time? Why didn't they get to show more than what they could do? You've seen it over the past few years. You've seen they've both come back. And Trish, for example, she looks, honestly, I don't know what she's doing with her skincare, but she has not aged at all. And it's really quite annoying. But it's like, you know, they keep coming back and they still get this reaction. And Trish is great. Trish and Becky's like feud that they have was fantastic. You just think, you know, there's so many opportunities that a lot of these girls that probably, you know, might have even been quite good in the ring, didn't really get that opportunity back in the day, you know. And that a lot of them now aren't wrestling. You just think, oh, like, kind of wish they had a little bit more. an opportunity instead of a 2-minute, I'm going to take your bra off. That's nuts. Absolutely nuts, isn't it? If you think about it.
What's even crazier is the fact that people admit the fact that China at one point was considered for the world heavyweight title. Like, she was going to beat Austin for it. And she was IC champ. And then she was co-IC champ. And at one point she was supposed to be the tag champ. And it's like, not mentioned. And that breaks my heart because I grew up with China. And I remember how much of a fucking like, she was pushed and marketed. This is a fucking badass. And you go, not mentioned in the conversation ever, and it bums me out because of who who runs it.
Yeah, honestly,
that's a conversation probably for another
it's
day.
Like it's crazy, really. Like China, imagine China now, like the opportunities. Like if she was about and she did, the amount of matches she did, the amount of rivalries and. Her and Rhea, or her and Charlotte Flair, her and Bianca Belair. Like, can you imagine? Like, what a shame, man. What an absolute shame. That would have been unreal. But she's, it's weird because she's still spoken about by wrestling fans, but for good things. Everyone always it's never, I've seen it's horrible. Everyone's just like, wow, like, wish you were kind of here kind of thing. Because imagine her looking at it now and be like, wow, like looking, for example, like at a Rhea Ripley and being like, wow, like, you're kind of like me. She was an outsider, wasn't she? She wasn't really, she was judged. It's horrible, really. She wasn't exactly constantly bra and panties kind of girl, but, she was incredible. So, yeah.
I think she's the only female wrestler I can ever really remember who was brought in and from the jump was pushed as, no, she's a physical threat. She was either Triple H's or Shawn Michaels' bodyguard, I think. And it's just, who is the Amazonian? And it's just testament to the power of this idea that, right, you set the tone with the fans, guys. Like, if you bring someone in and you tell them this is who they are, and I love that about wrestling. That's something that I've always loved, is like you can, it's storytelling so long as you give it the credence of it being storytelling. Like, okay, we're going to bring this person in and they are this and here's what they can do. And when it really catches fire, it catches fire. I mean, I'll segue this now so that you can have a little bit of an opportunity. I was part of the generation that booed this man and didn't yay this man, but I know you're a fan. John Cena is a great example of that, because when you look at John Cena and how he was brought in versus when they go, actually, what if we did this? Suddenly becomes the biggest thing in the industry. Talk to me about your fandom of obviously, I know you have a minor crush on him, but as far as his wrestling career, now that it appears to be winding down, how does that feel for you because you're a big fan of his? How does that feel?
Yeah, I've always I think I'm winding down from him a little bit now because I've seen a couple of interviews of him over the last couple of months where he's so PR, like he takes PR train to a whole new level, and it's a little bit like, whoa, okay, like you're a bit of a robot. But I've always been such a huge fan, and obviously he was at Money in the Bank, and obviously he had the surprise. I cried my eyes out. I've never seen him live before. This could have been my one opportunity. Like I've never been to a Wrestlemania in America because, come from like a single parent. I could never been there. Obviously, I've always wanted to. There was never an opportunity to ever see John Cena live, and that happened at Money in the Bank. That's probably going to be my only ever chance of seeing him. So I still got that bit. I don't have to see one of his matches because let's be real, John Cena isn't really. He was never the best wrestler, but he was just so cool. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's just cool. And I've never heard a bad thing about him. Obviously he was good mates with the Devil Man, but I've never heard a bad thing about him. But John Cena will always be a massive part of my life, no matter where I am. And I'm not allowed. I've got like this big pillow of him, and I'm not allowed to bring it in the house. Not allowed it. Not allowed.
Why?
It's had to be at my mum's house. A big giant pillow of John Cena.
Why not? What's wrong with that?
Partner's like, no. He's like, no, you're not having a big John Cena. Why not?
Wait, is it? Well, hang on. Is it one of the?
Oh, yeah, I'm not allowed it.
Is it a real picture of him, or is it more like a cartoony style picture of, like it's like been drawn, or?
It's a real picture.
It's okay.
No,
Is
it's a
it
real
life
picture.
sized, or is it like sort of torso
With the-
sized?
Oh, it's about that.
Oh, is that it? Or if it was body, if it was like
It's just got
one
his
of
big
those.
head on it.
Oh, if it was like one of the life size ones, maybe I'd understand. But just the little one, just like the little.
He's got his nips out. He's got his nips out.
Is he looking dead at the camera? I mean, you got to feel for your partner in the sense that, let's say you're hugging the pillow, right, and you're kind of doing whatever, and he's just looking at the pillow, looking at him. Like, I can understand that.
Yeah.
That's a weird position to be in.
I get it, but it's still quite rude, isn't it? Really. But I'm not allowed in the house. It's actually at my mum's house.
How did your mum feel about that?
I don't know. I just stayed in my bed at my mum's house, you know. She's not bothered. But yeah, it's not allowed. It's literally not allowed in the house. Oh.
Oh my god. Not where I was expecting that
sad,
conversation to go.
There we go. Well, there
To
we are.
arbitrate custody of a John Cena pillow. God bless you. All right, that kind of eliminates one of my other questions actually, which is like cool wrestling memorabilia that you'd like to own. I mean, because look, as wrestling fans, there's stuff that you see that you go, man, God, I'd love to have that. And I think with most people, it's belts. Other people, it's maybe an iconic T-shirt. If you get really into the weeds, it's there are people that want to buy the turnbuckle from the Cody Dustin Rhodes match from AEW's first show and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is there anything in wrestling history that you would like? I mean, maybe not own as past memorabilia, but maybe that you would have loved to have been there for? Or is there anything that you would have loved to have been there and experienced in a live capacity, perhaps? Or I mean, you've done Mania, and I would love to have. I think if I was going to do, it'd be
I've
the
never
first
been
match
to
ever.
WrestleMania.
Oh, sorry, as in seen
I've never
Mania,
been
like,
to WrestleMania.
Oh, okay, sorry. I mean, so what I guess I'm saying is, like, if you could, like, again, it's that stupid what if question. I'm sorry, I hate asking these questions, but it's curious because it's wrestling. Me, it's the Royal Rumble Hell in a Cell match. Sorry, was it Hell in a Cell?
Right.
It might have been the street fight. Triple H versus Cactus Jack. Like when it was just like hardcore, off the chain. Like I can't believe I'm seeing this on WWF. I would have just loved to have been in that audience that night.
Yeah.
What about you? Like, is there a moment in time that you'd be like,
Yeah.
do you know what? I just kind of wanted. It would be fucking insane to have been there.
I would have liked to have been at the women's pay-per-view. I would have loved to have been there. I also would have. My favourite ever pay-per-view, well, Royal Rumble, was 2008 when John Cena returned. I would have loved to have been there because that crowd was absolutely redonkulous.
In fairness, they popped
And I was
massively
so
for him
excited
as well.
because
They really did.
I had the T-shirt. The T-shirt. I had the T-shirt too. And that's probably one of my favourite T-shirts ever. The Hustle, Loyalty, Respect one. It was the best one. I think that's what I would have loved to have been there. But it's so, I don't know. What other ones I'd like to have been at? There's been so many. Do you know what I mean? There's been so many. I've been, I would like to have been there. Maybe WrestleMania 21. Would like to have been there too. Other than that, I don't know. There's been quite a lot. I suppose this last WrestleMania was quite good. I would have liked to have been there for that as well. But,
that Mania will go down in history. I mean, I feel like with hindsight, I think the viewpoint on it might temper a little bit because I think the emotion of it all is still very rich. But you can't argue it was the right execution, the right call, the right pacing. Everything was
brilliant.
just done correctly for once. It wasn't like previous Manias where you end up going like, right, let's all spend a week trying to make that make sense, and then we'll try and move on Raw next week. Like for once, it was just no. I think
it was perfect.
I think they did it. Yeah.
Yep. And I don't know. This year it's felt so different. It's really weird. It's just felt different. It's felt like it's been controlled. People have been listened to. People's creative minds have been listened to, and they're listening to what people want, you know. And I think as soon as they've now realised what they're capable of, and it's just one banger after another, you just think, where on earth are they going to go? Like, you know, for example, Cody winning. So glad he didn't win last year. This year felt so much. Oh, it felt so good. You know what I mean? Like, it just felt right. Like, it was right timing, how it all worked out. Obviously, there was some things that I could obviously critique about Wrestlemania, but yeah, it was just something about this year it was amazing. I was excited, you know? Like, we were so excited. We went to like a watch party, and then we both waited, obviously, because we both worked on the Monday, and obviously didn't want to watch it too late on the Sunday. So we made sure I was on the train in the morning, like, ah! You know, Damien Priest says he's cashing. I'm in the gym doing my like hip thrust, like, yes, in the gym, like, absolutely. Everyone's looking around, like, what is she doing? I'm sitting there watching WrestleMania while I'm doing my hip thrust in. It happened. You know, it was so exciting this year, and it's just going to continue. Who knows? World's its oyster, isn't it? Really.
Let's certainly hope so.
Kind of saying.
Let's hope that. Well, we can only. I mean, look. Without touching on him too much, there's a significantly less pompadoured elephant in the room that maybe doesn't hinder things going forward. Probably a conversation for another time. I want to talk about something very quickly about something that you've referenced, because you've referenced it in this and you've referenced it in others, and I think it's interesting to hear how you handle it, because not only do you do live interviews, live in-ring announcing, recorded podcasts, live shows of all descriptions, you've mentioned nerves, and you've mentioned about how you've contended with them in different scenarios. My question is how? Like, I don't know if I've ever really gotten over nerves of an interview when I'm really excited about, when I still go into it nervous, and everyone worries about it impacting their performance. How do you contend with it? How do you contend with it in real time? How do you prepare for it? How do you manage it? And how do you kind of take that energy and make it part of your presentation? Because again, you always come across very enthusiastic, very engaged. Talk to me about how you do that.
Well, I have to switch it on. I've come to a point now where I can switch on the normal me and the Jessy Maria. I have to switch it, and the nerves have to be like, sorry, like, I give myself a pep talk. Some days I'm like, you know, for example, when I've had something big happening, it's pep talk time. Listen, there's a reason you're here. There's a reason you've been chosen to do this thing. You're going to do it, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, you got this. It's scary, but you're the best. You know, you have to talk yourself into it. But I've had to learn to just switch on this different persona now. To just be like, okay, you're the best. But you know what I mean? That makes any kind of sense, I think. Maybe.
No, it does. I mean, the idea of giving yourself the pep talk, because it's that thing of just reminding yourself of stuff you already know, but saying it sort of, what the devil do the kids say? They say visualizing or manifesting reality. Is that what they call it? I don't know.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
you
manifest,
see?
yeah.
Yes. You know, again, my mid-30s now, you kids move so goddamn fast with your nomenclature. Anyways, point is...
I don't understand any slang. I don't understand anything.
I've only just been introduced to the word... I mean, my name's Riseley, right? So you'd think the word Riz would come naturally to me.
Right.
But my first name's Lorne. I have no Riz, so it doesn't go together. It's really annoying that it's like, that's a word that exists now, but I can't use it. Damn you kids and your non-existent diction. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't get it. The Riz stuff, I don't understand that.
Well, it's short for charisma, which is fine, except for, like, you have to make a bit of a leap. In wrestling terms, right, normally when there's something going on, it doesn't require that much explanation, with the exception of maybe the AEW scissoring thing. That probably does require some explanation. But, like, well, if you do it in public, someone's going to ask you, what are you doing? Like, it requires a moment. Whereas when you throw up a too sweet, you know, people generally are like, oh, it's just a hand gesture, it's all good. But yeah, just some of the stuff just goes over my head, and I sometimes take a moment to try and catch up with it. But I doubt very much.
I got an Urban Dictionary.
Does that still exist?
Yeah. Well, in my world, it does.
See now,
Don't know about
kids.
anyone else, but that's where I go.
When I was but a wee lad in
I'll
year
Google
6 IT, Urban Dictionary was something we were discovering for the first time, and boy howdy, did it
Oh,
need
wow.
some moderation, because there were some things in there that clearly weren't used, but were put in there as a gaff because they were seeing if they could get people to say it.
And
God.
I still have to Google some things, and I will go on the Urban Dictionary. I will.
What was the
Some
last
things I
thing
don't
you
get,
had
some
to...
things I say something else.
What was the last thing you had to... I mean, be honest
What
now.
did I-
Because I had to Google Riz. I genuinely had to, like, what the fuck is Riz?
Right.
The fuck are you talking about? Riz. Charisma. Oh, fuck. Just say charisma. Fuck me. Just, do you not have time?
Do you This sounds ridiculous. Recently. Right. Do you remember when we were like younger and people used to go behind you and pull your pants down?
Kegging, yeah.
Kegging, is that what you called it?
So in the Midlands, where I grew up when I was a bud lad, yeah, to keg someone was you pull their trousers down.
Keg.
You wouldn't,
Okay.
as a courtesy, you'd go sideways so you didn't catch the underwear. That was the rule. That was kind of the unwritten rule. It was like, right, that's the way you do it.
I am from the south, and from the south we called it cack.
Oh, yeah, no, I
And
can
you
see that.
cack
Yeah,
someone.
yeah, I can see
Right?
that.
So we were talking about the other day, and my partner was saying, look, that means when you go to the toilet on yourself. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
you shit yourself. Yeah, cack yourself.
This is
Yeah.
what it means in... Sorry, I didn't know if we were using swear words or what.
No, you go nuts.
Okay,
It's
when
fine.
you poop yourself, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, that's what they mean when they shit themselves. I'm like, no, they don't. That's what we used to call it when you go behind someone to pull their pants down. And I went, right, Urban Dictionary time. I got it out, and I was like, oh, I'm wrong. I'm so wrong. It was actually Jack. It wasn't cack. It was Jack and someone.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I was wrong. I was so wrong.
I mean, cacking
Exactly,
yourself is no.
definitely when you shit
Midlands is like, oh, you cacked yourself. Yeah,
it does
shut
make a
yourself.
bit more sense now.
Well, no, but I would think cacking someone
I
is
don't know
like
where I got that
khaki.
from.
I guess maybe like the khakis go. I don't know. Maybe it's one of those ones where
Right?
it can be a bit
You
different.
cack someone.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's what I used the Urban Dictionary for recently. This was literally the past 2 weeks. This was past 2 weeks. This has been not that long ago.
It does my heart good that it still exists, though. I'm so happy that it's still a thing. That's so good.
I don't know if people are still updating it. I don't know if people are still updating it. You're really sad if you're still updating that, by the way. If anyone's listening does the Urban Dictionary stuff, you're a bit sad. But there's a lot of nostalgia there. You know, there's a lot.
I'm going to have to look it up after this conversation because I'm genuinely curious to see how it's evolved since the days where it was, I don't know. I can't
It looks the
even remember.
exact same. But
They haven't updated it at all?
Looks the exact same. No.
Deary me.
No, it hasn't got any fancy things on it. It's the exact same.
I mean, even MySpace has had an overhaul in the last 20 odd years, so I would have thought that Urban Dictionary would have taken a bit of a scrub. I would have thought, but I don't know.
Young kids will never understand what we got, what we had. We were so lucky with some of the things we had.
Well, young kids will never understand. Like from a wrestling fan's, again to bring it back to wrestling and obviously content creation, like all of this.
Sorry.
Right, was just a fucking fever dream. When PCs were the size of fucking moving boxes, because y'all don't even know what TVs used to look like, because you're only used to flat screens now. But like the idea that you could see wrestling anytime, whenever, and you could catch up with stuff. And again, British wrestling is a great example of that, because now British wrestling can be showcased in its own right alongside any other product in the world. And you yourself, you can now make a platform for yourself, you can showcase yourself, you can string together things, and you can present yourself exactly how you want to present it. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was like the fact that, again, you started your channel to talk about something that you want to talk about. Like, how do you see yourself progressing in this? Like, now that you've worked in various media platforms and you've cultivated a personality online and you've managed to sort of dip your toe into various aspects, like, what do you see the future for yourself in that respect? Like, do you see yourself kind of maybe migrating into more short form stuff like a lot of people are doing, staying long form? Talk to me about what you see for your, like, as far as your aspirations go.
Do you know what? Obviously, I've announced it on like Twitter and things. This is my last year doing the ring announcing. It's my last year doing the interviewing. It's my last year of doing the YouTube stuff. But I will probably stay the radio presenting. and I would like. Obviously, I'm not probably going to pursue it as a career. I'd like to do it a little bit more. There was a point where I was going to consider even learning DJing, but I think that's off the cards. But my priorities are very different now. I'm in a very different mindset, and I'm in a mindset of now, okay, what's working? Am I wasting my time? I know it sounds ridiculous, but if I'm wasting my time, what am I doing? So, my partner also, obviously, he wrestles. He is also finishing this year. So both of us are kind of saying goodbye to, obviously, we're not going to completely give up wrestling, let's be real. But yeah, I'm just in a different mindset now of I don't want to be around some things anymore. I feel like I've achieved what I wanted to achieve, if that makes sense. I've done the things that I want to do. As a little girl, who would have thought I'd be, doing some crazy stuff that I've done. But yeah, I'm now at a point where I'm like, okay, maybe it's better to start doing other things. There's other business stuff I want to do. My job's incredibly intense. So yeah, I'm at a point now where I'm just like, kind of moving on, as you'd say. Yeah, I think, yeah, kind of moving on.
I guess the question there is there anything about your the journey you've taken and the career that you've taken, like I mean, obviously it's all kind of weird to think back on retrospectively, because again, when you sit in front of the camera for the very first time and you hit record, you never really know what's going to happen. But like, could you have predicted that this is where you'd end up, or did you always have like I'll just see how it goes?
Yeah, just see how it goes. I was winging it majority of the time. Obviously, I've had some great things come out of it, of course. I've had some absolutely crazy experience, like husband approaching, that's happening. I would have met my future husband unless it was through wrestling, So there's been many things that have been absolutely unreal. But yeah, I'm at a point now, I'm like, I've achieved what I want to achieve. Fine.
All right. I can't let it end on a negative or a bittersweet, somber note. So I will just say, as our final question, and this can go in any different direction. Yeah. I feel like it might spark an argument. You never know. What is your wrestling guilty pleasure? What's the thing that you are a little bit like, listen, hear me out. When it comes to this, I actually quite like, or maybe, or the thing you hate. Like, I've got to be honest with you guys. I'm not crazy about this. What's your? I'm just got to be honest about. I've got to be real. I've got to be real now.
Oh, I don't know. That's a very good question.
I mean, I can throw myself into the bus first if you need.
So I can see. Yeah, go on. Yeah, go on. Because then it might make me think.
The Rock.
Go on.
Was never, ever really a good babyface. He was just slightly more marginally less hateful than Triple H was when Triple H was running over people and hitting everyone with sledgehammers. The Rock was always better as a villain. If you really think about it, when The Rock was really the most entertaining, he was a bad guy, and yet I think people have this prevailing image of The Rock as being cool and therefore the hero. And it's like Nation of Domination, Hollywood Rock, and now Hollywood Final Boss Rock. Tell me they weren't stupidly entertaining runs that you remember more about when you actually boil it down.
Yeah.
Like, I remember The Rock's Toronto promo better than almost any of his other promos. Hooray! He said Toronto! That's one of his greatest promos, and I won't hear anything about it. But you can't. But people are like, but he had posters, and he was like, yes, but that was off the back of his heel work. So that's my quote bad wrestling take.
Do you know what? For me, right, this is. I don't say bad wrestling take, but there's some wrestlers that I've never been able to understand why people love them so much. Like, when you get these wrestlers, like everyone loves them. Oh wow, they're amazing, they're great. There's some wrestlers I'm like, I just don't get it.
Shoot, I gotta hear who it is.
I know it sounds mean, but I'm just like AJ Styles.
Wow. Yes, we are going to argue. Great. I've been waiting for this whole interview. Right, go on then. State your case. AJ Styles.
I've got a few of them. Don't worry. Do you know what it is? I ring-wise, great. The rest of him, just don't get it. Don't get it. Same
You're not
with,
a fan of the soccer mom haircut? No?
Nope. A bit sick. Makes me feel a bit sick. I also feel the same about Kevin Owens in the ring. But him outside, love him. I know.
Is that just because everyone remembers his debut against Cena? Is that part of it?
Nothing to do with it.
Unbelievable.
Nothing to do with it. I don't know what it is. There's just some people I just don't get it.
Unbelievable. Kevin Owens of all people.
Yeah, I know. And I really like him because he seems like a really cool fella.
He does seem like an impossibly nice guy.
Another one, Johnny Gargano. I just don't get him. Yeah, I know. Nah, he's a wet fish, he is. Sorry, he's an absolute wet fish. And I know people are going to hate me, but I think he's an absolute wet fish. Like, in the ring, great. Personality, he's like a salmon.
I am
be honest.
Like, I didn't believe the opening volley of AJ Styles was like, oh, it's going to get worse. No, it got worse from there. Good Lord. No, that's... Yeah. Listen, I can't argue that all three of those guys have not the most... if you took any one of those three and put them in Attitude Era, they'd be in Kai and Tai or the Mean Street Posse within a week, granted. But...
I don't get excited to see people them wrestle. I don't. I'll be honest. So
when Kevin Owens came back at that last great War Games, that didn't do anything for you when it went and you heard the crowd roar. That didn't.
No, because we knew it was coming.
Really?
We knew it was coming.
Oh man.
Yeah, we knew it was coming. It's like, for example, the AJ Styles thing. I could have easily skipped LA Knight match with him. Skipped it. And I don't really like LA Knight either. So
I was going to say though, do you not feel LA Knight's wind? Right, that man has significantly more urine in his cornflakes now because The Rock has been back, and it's really painful to hear how similar he is.
Do you know what annoys me the most? If it wasn't for the word he'd be irrelevant. He would be irrelevant if it wasn't for the word Honestly, it's true. He ain't that great in the ring either. He just doesn't look very nice. Like he just gives off this weird vibe. I just don't like. That's that's bad, but
I mean, look, I can't debate because it's subjective. All I would say is if I'm going into WWE and fixing anything right now, I'm fixing Gunther back to Walter immediately.
No. Yes. No, I agree. I fully agree.
I have got no problems with his presentation other than the fact his name's Gunther. Good Lord. Anyways, I don't want to get into wrestling diatribes any more than anyone else does because we'd be here all day. I do want to ask, I appreciate that obviously you're wrapping up things, so maybe this isn't the necessarily most relevant question, but while you're wrapping up things, while you're in a bit of a hoorah tour, where do you want people to find you? Where do you want people to follow you? And what do you want them to be aware of that's coming up or that you want them to get super excited about so that you can end on the highest of high notes?
I feel like more opinions are coming. I feel like over like the next year, my filter is going to slowly. I probably will voice more wrestling opinions. I might just tell the world I'm not a big fan of AJ Styles, see what happens. But imagine that. Imagine if I told everyone on Twitter. Maybe get cancelled for it. Maybe.
I mean, I have weekly arguments with a young man who's a massive Cornette fan. I don't think there's anything off the... There's honestly, he's the only person, he'll remain nameless, but he's the only person I've ever heard actually say, unironically, I can't stand that flippy dippy bullshit. And I went, and you go, dude, do you want every match ending in a lariat? Is that your ideal wrestling scenario? Just every match ends with a clothesline or a DDT? And he can't, well, kind of, yeah. Like, Okay, it's fine.
Oh,
It's all good. Wrestling is
or
for
like, I don't know, like a
everybody.
tombstone or something. That's it.
Wrestling's for everybody at the
Yeah,
end of the
I
day,
think
you know?
everyone. If we all like the same people, and if we all had the same opinions, it would be boring. It would be boring. You know, if we all like the same people and cheered for the same people, it would be boring.
But there you go.
Yeah.
So, but
I'm sure this year will be fun.
100%. But where can people find you? Where can people follow you? I mean, I
Yeah,
think you've got a Twitter. It's not X, it's Twitter. Sorry,
I
X
do.
account. I'm assuming you've got
Yeah,
Instagram.
nobody. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Watches. I think it's Watches Jess. And then you can follow my Instagram at Jessicaro1 if you like. You don't have to. I'm not holding it against your will or anything. To you.